next, we're going to be building the Mega Nav that we have here. And we call it Mega Nav just because it has a lot of drop downs, and each one of them actually looks a little bit different. So we're going to be learning how to work with drop downs, which is something that we haven't covered so far, and also how to style this. We'll try to use client first for as much as we can, and we probably can for all of the links and all of the text styles. For the cards design, we'll have to create custom styles because they are obviously unique. Now, let's see how these drop downs actually look like. First one, the most simple one is actually about, right? It only has an icon, and this is not, this is static content. It's not the CMS like we have here from the blog, which is CMS data, and events is CMS data. So I think we'll start with the most simple one, the about us, because they do share some similarities, like they all have these cards element, they all have 3 columns. So I think we'll start with trying to build the about one and then duplicate and make changes as we go along. So that's going to be my strategy. First of all, let's design and make sure that the navigation itself look like we want it to look like. So the navbar here is already a component coming from Reloom as a component, which is a good thing. So we only need to edit this once. I'm going to replace this logo with the logo of the company. And by the way, you can find all the assets in the folder, assets folder below. And so we've got the logo here. For the nav itself, we can actually go ahead and change the background color from this automatic gray one. We've got we can probably use this emerald. I'm wondering whether I should pick the background myself or just use something like color scheme 3, I think it was. Yeah, fantastic. That's easier because that's taking care not only of the background, but also makes all of the text lighter. The last thing we should do here is actually change this button from button is small. See if it has maybe alternate, is alternate. Fantastic, because alternate means it's bright, and I can also use the is small to make it small again. That's great. So I've reapplied classes that already exist, is alternate, because it's on a dark background, and reapply the is small. And now the menu itself looks great. So let's just test out and see what these drop downs look like. Well, obviously they don't look right, and even the content within them is the structure here is not really what we need. We need something simple that has heading, sometimes has a button, and then has a 3-column grid. And here we've got something, it's difficult to see right now because we changed the background, but it's basically 2 columns in this left side and then something completely different on the right side. So I think we're just going to completely remove that and replace it with something of our own. So let's open up the about dropdown. You can see as I'm hovering on top of it that it's got this special drop-down icon here. And from the settings panel, I do have drop-down settings, hide or show. So by default, it's hidden, and I can either set that it shows on click, or maybe by default, it's set to show on hover. And that's great. So you can see here that we've got, this is basically the element, navbar drop-down toggle. It has this text element, which is set to about, and everything here that's inside, that's basically what we have in here. Now, we have this weird bug right now where, because the hero section has an overlay, the overlay is actually showing on top of the navbar, so it looks a little bit dark. We can fix this if we just go into the positioning and put Z index, even just something like 1. I can even remove this because it doesn't really matter, but it solved the bug. Now, as I've mentioned, we don't want all of this pre-existing content, so we can go ahead and remove it. Now, before I remove it, there's one more thing that I want to show you. Note that as I'm hovering, as I'm selecting the navbar drop-down list, we do have here a state, an open state, meaning when this is set to show, because by default this is hidden, when it will show, there's basically going to be an open state edit here. So all of the changes that we're making to the styling, it's basically the open is changing it from display none to basically showing it. Now, the fact that we have this open state here basically means that I cannot, for example, add the color scheme like we did in the top here, because it's going to be, basically we can't add a combo class on top of this state position. So we're going to have to actually change the colors to this navbar 5 open state. So I can do this by going in here and selecting for background, for example, the secondary, I think, and selecting for the text, the dark text primary. Okay, so this is going to be the way that it looks. This thing basically, I guess, overrides this, but we're going to delete this anyway. So let's see what we've got inside. We've got inside of the navbar dropdown, we've got a container, which we will keep because we do want things to stay contained. We've got this navbar dropdown content, which wraps, in this case, these 2 elements, the left element and the right element. I don't need them, so I'm going to delete them. I'm going to keep the dropdown content because we do need a wrapper for everything that we have here. And I'm going to bring in my content inside. So what content do we have when we're starting with the about? We're going to have the text about us, and then we're going to have a grid of 3 columns. So let's go ahead and add that in here. So I'm going to hit Command E to add a text block, and then I'm going to also hit Command E and add a grid element. Now I'm not seeing them, but let's go here into this navbar drop-down content and add a little bit of spacing padding from the top and bottom. So let's add 2 rem here and 2 rem here and see if we can see our content. Let's set it to show. Okay, so here's our content. It's right here. Let's go back again and get rid of this weird bug. Add z-index, remove that z-index. So we've got these 2 elements in here. This one, I'm going to hit copy the about us. Now, we want them one on top of the other. So we're going to make sure that this drop-down content, which is set by default, or they used it as flex horizontally, let's put this as flex vertically. So now this is on top of this. Now let's use the classes that we already have to style this. This looks like this is semi-bold. So let's, now usually it's going to be something like text dash width, and then, or weight, sorry. And then we have, you can see bold, light, medium, semi-bold. Let's try semi-bold. Yeah, that's okay. That looks good. Okay, for the grid, let's give this a class. And this is a unique element that we have here. So we can call this just mega underscore menu grid. And we want this to be 3 columns. We want the gap to be, let's set this to 1 rem, since everything here is rem. And we don't need 2 rows. We just need 1 row. We can also add margin on top to space out between the heading that we have here. So let's add 1 rem as a top space between. Okay, so that looks good. So we've got the basic structure here. So now let's design 1 card so that we can duplicate it 3 times. So inside of the grid, inside of this grid, I'm going to add a div block. And again, this is a unique element that we have. So let's give it a unique class. Let's call it mega underscore menu, because it's the same element, but this time instead of grid, we're going to call this card. What does this card has? It has basically a border and round corners. So let's set border 1 pixel, this, I guess, kind of like brownish color. Let's see what borders we have here. Is this trilary? I guess, maybe. Round corners, let's pull in, we've got the medium round corners, 1 rem, so that's okay. And we can also add padding. Now, I can see that if I add padding to the card, later I'm going to have to change that, because for example here, when we have images, we don't have padding. But I can set this on the original card and we'll override it later. So let's go here, add 1 rem padding, and I'm going to hit Option Shift so that we get it from all sides. And I think we've got the basic structure of the card. Now, in terms of layout, I want this to be a flex because I want 2 elements, the icon here, and then some kind of a wrapper for all of the text information. So let's turn this card also into flex, direction horizontally, and gap between them. Let's set this to 1 rem as well. Okay, so now we've got the structure of the card itself. Let's bring in the content. Now, here's a cool thing that the Reloom Chrome extension enables you to do. When you have icons, instead of exporting them and going and upload them as an SVG, we can actually just go in Figma, double-click to get to the icon themselves. Let's say this one. Right-click it, and you can see that we can actually copy this as an SVG. And that basically copies the SVG code. Now, I can just go in here and I can hit Command-V paste, and you can see that Reloom is just going to basically paste and turn this into an icon that is custom code. Now, this is really, really great because later, if I want to change the color, this is even better than importing an image, because when this is an SVG code, I can, if, for example, I'm going to select this mega card menu and decide that the text inside of it is going to be, let's say, red, note how the icon is changing its color. So this is really, really powerful. Importing icons as SVG instead of an SVG image asset that you upload, which is a static image, you basically bring it in as a code embed, which is basically, by the way, if I click this, here's the code that was copied from Figma. So even if you don't have the Reloom Chrome extension, you can just add a code embed and then copy the code from here and then paste it inside of a code embed. Reloom just saved you the step of adding the code embed yourself. But the fact that we have it here basically means that it's going to pull in the color from its parent element, and then we can play around with the color also with interaction. It's really, really powerful, actually. So this is quite a cool tip that we've got here. The other thing is let's bring in a wrapper for all of the text element. So I'm just going to bring in another div here inside, and let's bring in the text element. So we've got 1 text, 2 text, and then actually a link block. So let's bring in a text block, and then copy and paste this text block, and also bring in a text link. Okay, we've got 3 of them. I want the text link to be at the end. This div block, first let's actually style the text. So this, our mission, is actually semi-bold just like this. Actually, this, I see that it's actually smaller, right? This is actually text size tiny. So we're gonna make this smaller in a second. What was this? Why it didn't copy our mission? Okay, so our mission, we're going to reapply the semi-bold. You know what? I'll just write semi-bold, and it's just going to give me text weight semi-bold. And here, maybe let's do text size small. The last thing is that we need this link to look like a link with this underline. And it turns out that in the style guide, we also have a text style for a link, right? So we already have a class like this that includes the underline. We can, if we want to, go ahead and adjust this to add a little bit more space. So under these 3 dots here, under text decoration, we can give this a little bit of an offset, first of all, so that it's not tied too much to the text, and maybe turn the color into something a little lighter, neutral. I think that's what we have here. Like the text is a little bit lighter. Okay, can play around with this. But basically, we've got the div, we've got the structure right, and we can go ahead and we can actually copy this menu grid card 1, 2, 3. Of course, we can then go ahead and copy and paste the content that we have here, but let's not waste our time on this right now. Let's move into the second one, the cultural insights. That is also static content, but the card looks a little bit different, and it's got these static images of the 3 articles that are being promoted. So all I have to do right now is let's see what we'll copy. Let's copy this Mega Nav drop-down content. I'm going to hit Command-C to copy that. I'm going to close the about. So I'm going to hide the about and go to Cultural Insights and show that one. And of course, it's got all of the different content, only we changed the flex of the wrapper to vertical, so it messes up a lot of things here. So I'm just going to delete this, and inside of the container, just paste the, let's show this again. So now we've got pasted the about. Let's solve this bug with z-index1, remove that. Okay, so now we can just paste cultural insights. And let's see what we need to do right now. We need to change, first of all, let's replace the icon with an image and then see what we need to adjust. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to add an image and select one of the images that I've uploaded. And again, you can find them in the resources folder. Let's put the image before the text. Okay, so now we can see how we need to override this card element. We need to remove the padding to begin with, and then we should probably clip the round corners of the image. So let's start with that. So I'm going to add a combo class on this Mega Nav card. Let's call this card with image and remove this. So I'm just going to set 0 and hold Option and Shift, so it would apply them on all sides. That's great. And for the card, because you can see right now that the image is extending, let's set the overflow to hidden. So again, select the card overflow hidden. Okay, so now the image is cropped nicely. Okay, I guess now we need to style this area here. So previously we didn't even give this div block any class. We can now call this card. Let's call this Mega Nav, so we know what this class is. Mega Nav card info. Okay, and this one we can give this a background color. I guess it's the secondary background color. Background color's not secondary. Which one is this? Background color needs to be a little bit. Yeah, it's this one, the secondary. We also have a gap here in the card between these two things, which we don't need. So on card with image, we can also remove the gap, and we can just add the padding in here on this mega card info. Let's add 1 rem on all sides from here. Okay, so this looks pretty much the same, right? No, we didn't get the background color right here. So the background color is this neutral lighter. Let's see if we can find that. So this is not this neutral lighter. I don't even know if we have this neutral lighter. Well, for now, I'm just going to stick to this. Of course, I can copy the colors later if I want. And I think that basically, we've got the card. And of course, we can delete these cards and go and copy this mega card 3 times. Now we've got the cultural insights. Okay, The next step is to go to the blog, which has the same type of cards, only this time they're being pulled from the CMS. So let's go ahead and copy what we've created here in Cultural Insights. Let's copy the content again. Let's close the menu of the Cultural Insights. Let's open up the blog, show the blog, delete the content inside of the container, and paste our own content. Of course, we're going to click show. Of course, we're going to go and on the drop down, where was the drop down? I'm going to give this set index of 1 so we can see it properly. Okay. Okay, now we want to replace this with blog list. So let's go ahead and instead of this mega grid, let's actually add just a collection list. Collection list. We're going to pull this collection list from the blog posts. And let's go ahead and just to begin with, let's limit this to 3. So limit items 3. Of course, we can decide and sort them if it's new, if it's featured. And now, what do we want? We want the list to get this mega grid class, so it turns into a grid. So I'm going to copy this class here, mega menu grid, and apply this to the list itself. That's great. And well, it's great, but for some reason it didn't turn into a grid. So let me just hit the grid here. Okay. And next, we want to take in this mega card menu and let's paste that inside of the item. Now we don't need the static grid anymore, and we can just go here and connect these elements into, this one is blog post image. This is the blog name. This is probably blog something like plot summary or something like this. And text link should probably be something like read more. I do think that maybe we need to space out these things that we haven't done before. So in this mega nav card info, in this mega card nav info, let's turn this into a flex vertical just so that we can give a little bit of gap between these elements. And this image though is now stretching. So let's call this mega nav image just so that we can have access into the image, not fill, but cover. So it doesn't, stretch. But one thing I see now is that these cards each have a different size. So let's go into the card and just make sure it fills up the whole space. So height 100%. Yep, now it's good. Image is not cropping very beautifully here, but overall, I think this is good. And we do need this all blog article here. So we're going to add a link here. And this is actually, I think we have something like this in the style guide, which is a link with an icon. So let me go into the style guide and look at all of the different buttons that we have here. We do have, here we go. This is a text link with an icon. So I can basically take this element, copy that, and go into our home page and paste that in here. Let's go inside and paste it here. And this button, we can bring this below the grid. And actually we can, for the grid, we can also give this one rem padding below. Fantastic. So this button should show all blog articles. We can copy, same as we did before, copy the SVG code. We actually have this as an SVG, so I can just paste this inside. The last thing is that this menu is taking up the whole space and is centered, which is not really what we want. Now, this isn't what really happened on the style guide, so I wonder why this is happening. Let me go back into the style guide and examine what we have here. So we've basically copied this from here, this button. Oh, and I can see that this button is actually nested inside of a button group. So yeah, the way that buttons are created inside of client first is that buttons are created inside of button groups, so that if I copy and paste, basically we can have buttons next to each other. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the button in this button group element. I can either recopy this, but because we've already styled it, let's just go back here and inside and see where this button is. Right click, wrap it in div, and give this div block the class button group. Fantastic. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so we've got the cultural insights, and let's copy this copy this whole navbar content to see the last one that we have here, which is the upcoming events. So this is going to be very, very similar. We're just going to connect instead of blog to events and change the styling of the card just a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. This was cultural insights. So let's go ahead and hide that. All right. Now events, show, delete the content that is inside here. Delete that, paste inside what we have from cultural events. Let's go into styling, 1Z index, and remove. Let's see if I can change. Perhaps I can't already change. Yeah, it's already locked. So I can't basically copy and change this now to events. I'm basically going to have to delete this, bring in another collection list, connect that into events, not event types, events. Also go ahead and limit this to 3 from the settings. So show only 3. Now reapply the styles that we had. So let's see, what were the styles? The styles were mega menu grid. Let's copy this. And oh my God, now it's going to be difficult to see what I'm working on because it was hidden. So I'm going to apply the mega grid on this collection. And we also need what we have inside, but it's already connected also to CMS data. So let's open up again the cultural insights, which was the static cards. And let's copy this mega card, and again, hide this, go to events, show the events, and basically paste this in here. Okay, now of course, connect the data to the events data. Name of the event summary, short description. Of course, the links, by the way, learn more. The links should also connect to the relevant page. Yeah. Okay, now here we have a little bit of a different card styling. So basically we need to, let's see what the card is. This one has the combo class of card with image. Now in this case, we don't need this combo class. So let's remove the combo class and see what happens. We also probably don't need this mega card info. The only thing, we don't want the background, but we do want the padding. No, actually, we don't need this at all. And the image here, we can give this round corners. We can also, for this card menu, let's actually create another combo class that removes basically both padding and outline. So maybe I can just remove this in general. No, I do want to maintain the flex. So let's create a new combo class. Let's call this mega menu. Let's just call this events, right? Because this is not going to be reused again. But I'm going to remove these paddings. So 0. Okay. Remove the outline or the border. And this one, we do want to space them out. So let's call this event or mega menu event text and just use the same way to space them this way. And here we want round corners. So we're going to call this mega menu image event and just going to give this round corners. Okay. So this is pretty much it. And we can change this to all events. And let's preview this. And we've got the mega menu. Here, for example, I can see that we've got a problem because this text element is not taking up the whole space. So let's go ahead and fix that. Under cultural insights, we couldn't see this here, but we could see it when we preview. Where are we? Mega Nav, drop down 1, remove, and then this card, let's make sure it expands if possible to take up the whole space. Let's preview this now. Okay, now it looks great. Okay, fantastic. We've created the mega menu.